Hi guys, I'm Anissa and I'm back with another video. Today it's time for my BooktubeSFF Babbles topic, I guess. A little late about the topic, what am I voting for? Because tonight is the live show for the BooktubeSFF Awards. I'm a little bit late on it, but I had to quickly film this and talk to you about what I've been reading and what my thoughts were and what I am ending up voting for in each category. I've already submitted my vote, so obviously because it's tonight, and so I'm gonna talk a little bit about that, and so let's get into that. Let's start out with the fantasy category, and it's one of the only categories where I've actually read all of the books, or well, I DNF'd one of them and read the other two. The nominees from this category was The Foundryside by Robert Jackson Bennett, it was Grey Sister by Mark Lawrence, and then finally it was also Circe by Madeline Miller. And if you followed me for the past while, you know that you probably already guessed my vote, and my vote obviously went to Foundryside by Robert Jackson Bennett. This has been one of my favorite books of the year so far, so obviously I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I also really enjoyed Grey Sister and gave it 4.5 stars. I think I liked it better than the first one, but I didn't love it as much as Foundryside. I DNF'd Circe by Madeline Miller when I was about 40% through it because I couldn't finish it in time and I wasn't really into it, so I'm not planning on getting back to it. It was a library audiobook and it expired on me. And what I read, I was not super into it, but I also didn't like the first book that she wrote. Song of Achilles was not my kind of book either, so I wasn't expecting to love it, but I was hoping that I would like it at least. So yeah, so that's my reason for putting the vote on Foundryside. And I still highly recommend you reading this because it's so good. The second category is the science fiction category, and I didn't read very much from this category. So you might think that it would be a difficult choice for me or not valid or something like that. But the nominees in this one were Record of a Spaceborne Few by Becky Chambers. I still have not started this series yet, so I wanted to read it in order. I know that a lot of people have told me that you can totally read these out of order because they're not following the same characters. They're sort of like companion novels, but I can't read things out of order, even though it's possible. I always read things from the actual order unless the author suggests you read it in a different order because chronologically that's how it happens or something like that. Then fine, then I might start somewhere else, but otherwise I always read from the beginning and onwards. The second book that was nominated in the science fiction category was The Calculating Stars by Mary Robert Cowell. This I gave 5 stars to, and I loved it to bits. And the last one I still have not finished yet, that is Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. I read like the first 53 pages. And I'm not sure what I think of it yet. It's difficult to say because there's like, I've only read 50 pages out of 600 or something. But it was not a difficult choice for me to vote for this. Even if I end up really enjoying Record of a Spaceborne Few or something, I would not be so sad that I put my vote on The Calculating Stars because I loved it so much and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was so enjoyable and one of my favorite reads of the year. And so I'm happy I voted for this. Even if I end up liking the others, I don't think I will like them more than this one. But if I do, then fine. But I still think this is definitely a deserving winner nonetheless. So I will definitely put my vote on The Calculating Stars. The next category is the young adult category, and sadly I didn't get to as many of the books that I wanted to, but the first book that was nominated in this category was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This one I didn't get to because it didn't come out from the library yet. I think it's coming out over the next coming weeks, so I will definitely try and get to it then, and hopefully I'll really enjoy it. But I couldn't vote for it because I don't know how it's going to be. And the second one that was nominated was Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. I read this one and gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I definitely really enjoyed it. And I decided to put my vote on this because I thought it was a pretty good book and I didn't read any of the others. And I wouldn't be mad if this one won. The last and final book that was nominated in this category was Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. I'm not planning on reading this, so obviously I can't say that it's not going to be a great book. but I don't think it will because I didn't like the first one and I don't really like her writing style. So for me, I don't think it will change the fact that I wouldn't vote for her. So let's get on to the next category. The middle grade category is another one of those categories where I've read all of the books, so I'm really happy about that. The first one that was nominated in this category was Arusha and the End of Time by Roshani Chokshi. This is one of the Rick Riordan Represents books, and it follows this girl called Arusha who is more or less living at this museum, and she ends up doing something that stops time completely, and only her and this other girl called Mimi are still alive, if you will, and they have to try and fulfill a destiny of some sort. And it takes a lot of Indian folklore and stuff into this, and Hinduism stuff, and it was really, really interesting. And the humor was very similar to Rick Riordan, so I think if you like Percy Jackson or the Heroes of Olympus, that's a sort of series, you would definitely enjoy this one. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next one that's nominated is City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. This is a middle grade book that follows this girl who is able to see ghosts, and her parents are like working as like ghost hunters stuff, like with a TV show thing. And yeah, so she's traveling around the world, and I enjoyed it. It was really fast read. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. I can see why it would be popular for young adult readers or middle grade readers to read this. So yep, 3.5 stars for this one. The last and final nominee for this category was The Wundersmith, The Calling of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is the sequel to Nevermore, and I love this one so much. It is, I actually like this one better than the first one. I thought the characters really well developed, and I like where the storyline went. It was a little bit darker than the first one, and yeah, can't wait for the next one, whenever that's gonna come out. I haven't seen anything about a sequel yet, but I've heard that it's gonna be quite a long series, so I'm looking forward to see what's gonna happen next, and gave it 5 stars. And I also remember saying when the announcement came out that I was going to be hard with a book that topped this one, but if there was, then obviously that would have been an amazing book. But this one gets 5 stars, and it is my vote for the middle grade category. But I'm happy I read all of the books. I thought they were all pretty great books. The next category is the debut category, and that's another category where I read all of the books, and I'm happy I did that. But this is probably the category that I had the most difficult time figuring out who to vote for. I'll get into that later. The first nominee was The Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. It was very hyped last year when it came out, and I read it in June or something, and I remember enjoying it, but afterwards, like, my feeling about this one lowered a little bit more the more I thought about it. So I went from a 4 stars to about a 3 out of 5 stars, and so I'm a little sad about that, but it is like a middle of the road kind of book for me, and I'm not planning on reading on in the series, so that's a little bit sad. The next nominee of this category is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, and if you followed me recently, you know that this is one of my most disappointing books of the year, actually. So I really did not enjoy this one. I think I gave it 2.5 stars. I just thought that this could have done so much better. I didn't think that the plot in itself was very original. I liked the magic system and I liked that, but I didn't like the characters. I thought they weren't very well developed, and they were filled with regular YA tropes that I didn't think were necessary. And so I ended up giving this 2.5 stars. The last and final thing that is nominated in the debut category was Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is an urban fantasy story where this Native American girl who is a monster hunter, and she has an interesting type of fighting skills, and stuff happens. And yeah, this was another one of those that I had really high expectations for, because I love urban fantasy. It's one of my favorite genres, and I thought it had really good potential, but sadly I just didn't think this one delivered either. I never really connected as much as I wanted to any of the characters, and that really it made it for a little bit of a slower read for me. Yeah, but I did end up giving, I think, 3 out of 5 stars, maybe 3.5 stars. I am a little unsure. I think my final rating was 3 stars. And it's another one of those series. I'm not sure if I'm going to read the next one. I've currently decided not to, but it also did end a bit of a cliffhanger type of ending. So I'm interested maybe in reading it if I can get my hand on a copy from the library or something. Maybe I'll check it out. So the reason it's been difficult for me to actually vote for anything in this category is because they've all been pretty disappointing to me. I didn't think that any of these was like outstanding books that deserve to get an award. So I had a really hard time actually voting for anything in this one. But I think my vote, if I remember correctly, I ended up voting for The Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse, because out of the 3, I think that's the one I enjoyed the most. And so it got my vote, and I didn't vote for any of the others. And if there's something I'd like to say to the hosts of this, it would be that next time maybe it would be nice to say no vote to the specific book that you didn't want to give an award to, no award thing. Because right now the way it was set up was that you could put no vote for one of the, if you didn't want to use all of your votes. But I would rather say that the specific book didn't get a vote, because maybe sometimes there's only one book you really liked and the other ones you didn't like, so you don't think that the other books deserves a vote and an award. And so I would like it to be like on the same as your first choice, second choice, or no vote, third choice or no vote, or something like that, instead of it being on the other side. But that was just something I thought about when I was putting my votes in, because it was such a difficult time actually voting for anything in this category, so I wouldn't have wanted to give them votes, if you will. The next category was the graphic works category, and that's another one of those categories where I've read all of the books, or the nominees. The first nominee in this category was Agricon Cove by Katie O'Neill. This is a children's graphic novel, and it has really cute art style, and it focuses a lot on your environment and coral reefs and what the pollution or the plastic in the sea is doing to ruin the coral reefs around the world. And I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next one that was nominated was The Adventure Zone, Here There Be Gerblins by Clint Griffin, Justin and Travis McElroy, as well as Carrie Pierce. And this is a podcast that decided to do their podcast type of thing in a graphic novel form as well. So if you've listened to the podcast, I think you'll have a lot more fun reading this from the beginning. I mean, I really enjoyed it. It was my sort of humor, so I really ended up really loving this, but it was a difficult time getting into it when I read it, because I had no clue what was going on. The last and final thing that was nominated in the graphic works category was Monstrous Volume 3 by Marjorie M. Liu and Sana Takeda, and definitely very much enjoyed this one. I can't say much about the plot because it's third in the series, but this is the art style. I love the art. It's really, really beautiful, and this is my favorite of the 3 volumes so far, so I gave it 4.5 stars, and this is also the one I ended up voting for because of that. But I also really enjoyed both of the others, so I think the second choice was The Adventure Zone, and then the last one, Agricon Cove by Katie O'Neill. The last and final category was the short work category, and for that one I read 2 of the books, and I already did that before this started, so I haven't read anything for this one in the time of the BooktubeSFF Awards has been going, but I'm okay with that. The first thing that was nominated was Beneath the Sugar Sky by Shauna Maguire. This is the 3rd book in the Wayward Children series, and this follows a new character with every book, and then we're going into different worlds. This one we go into the nonsense world, and that's probably what my issue with this one was, because it was difficult for me to get through it. It also goes a little bit into the logic world, so parts of it I enjoyed, parts of it I didn't. I gave it 3.5 stars when I read it, and yeah, so enjoyed it, but it's not my favorite from the series at all, and it was also be the last time. This one is able to be nominated this series. The next one that was nominated was Binti The Night Masquerade by Nnedi Okorafor. I still have only read the first Binti novel, novella. I might try and get to Binti Home or the last one if I can get access to them at the library or something. But currently I'm not planning on reading this series because I didn't love the first one. And the last thing that was nominated in the short works category was Artificial Condition by Martha Wells. This is the second book in the Murderbot Diaries, and I love this series a lot. I think the first book was amazing and was really fun, and was nominated last year in the awards, and gave it 4 or 5 stars, the first one. This one I also really enjoyed. I didn't love it as much as the first one, so I gave it 3.5 stars, but the character art was amazing. Alongside Murderbot, those two characters just really made it a lot more fun, and I ended up giving it 3.5 stars as well. So my final vote for this category with Artificial Condition getting my vote, and then my first vote, and then the second in place was Beneath the Sugar Sky, and then no vote for the last category because I didn't read it. Those are all of the things that were nominated, and my thoughts about and what I read and how my votes went. What I ended up voting for. Let me know in the comments down below what books you read for the BooktubeSFF Awards. Have you been following it this year? And what were the best books you read for this, if you read anything? And what are you voting for? Are you planning on watching the live show tonight? And also let me know about that. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video very soon. Goodbye!